Tim Tebow's NFL journey wasn't just about stats or wins. It was a story that drew national attention for reasons far beyond football. After throwing for 316 yards and delivering a walk-off overtime touchdown against the Steelers in the playoffs, Tebow became an overnight sensation. That single play, his first pass of overtime, symbolized the hope and controversy that followed him everywhere. But behind the headlines and the Tebowing celebrations, questions lingered. How did a player with so much charisma, leadership, and college success find himself fighting for a roster spot in the pros? Understand why Tebow's NFL career took such a dramatic turn, we need to look back at how he became one of the most celebrated college football players in history. At Florida, Tebow was the kind of college football player who seemed to do everything right. From the moment he stepped on campus as a highly touted recruit, he brought energy and a level of determination that set him apart. He wasn't just another quarterback. He became the face of the program almost overnight. In 2007, Tebow made history as the first sophomore ever to win the Heisman Trophy, a milestone that signaled how quickly he'd become a household name. That season, he put up numbers that stood out even among college football's best, throwing for over 30 touchdowns and rushing for more than 20, a rare feat for any quarterback, let alone one still early in his career. His impact wasn't just about stats. Tebow played a central role in Florida's run to 2 BCS national championships in 2006 and 2008. While he contributed as a backup in the first title run, by the time the Gators returned to the championship game, he was their clear leader. His presence in the huddle and his ability to make plays in crucial moments set the tone for the team's confidence. One moment that stands out came after a tough loss to Ole Miss during the 2008 season. Tebow's brief post-game speech, later known as The Promise, captured his leadership style. He apologized for the loss and promised that he and his teammates would work harder than ever. Florida didn't lose another game that season, finishing as national champions. That speech and the way the team responded showed how Tebow's leadership could translate into results on the field. Tebow's style of play was built on a unique blend of power running and determined passing. He was known for bulldozing through defenders just as easily as he could loft the pass over coverage. His dual threat ability made him a nightmare for college defenses. By the end of his senior year, he'd broken the SEC record for career rushing touchdowns, surpassing legends like Herschel Walker. In his final game, the 2010 Sugar Bowl, Tebow put on a clinic, completing 31 of 35 passes for 482 yards and 3 touchdowns. That performance set a BCS Bowl record and put an exclamation mark on his college legacy. But Tebow's influence reached beyond his athletic achievements. He was a 3-time team MVP, chosen by his teammates, and served as captain in his final 2 seasons. His teammates often pointed to his work ethic and positive outlook as reasons the Gators could rally in close games. Tebow's habit of dropping to one knee in prayer after the big plays, known as Tebowing, became a cultural moment that extended his fame far beyond college football fans. His leadership and faith made him a polarizing figure, but also one that people respected for his consistency and drive. The excitement around Tebow's transition to the NFL was hard to match. His college career built up massive expectations. Fans and analysts wondered if he could bring the same energy and success to the next level. The idea that he might redefine the quarterback position was everywhere. Yet, even as he racked up wins and awards, there were questions. Some coaches and scouts pointed out that his throwing motion was different from what most NFL teams wanted. His release was longer, and his passes sometimes took extra time to get out. In college, where Tebow's athleticism and decision-making often gave him an edge, these quirks didn't hold him back. He finished as the SEC's all-time leader in passing efficiency and completion percentage, which seemed to prove that his style worked. Still, the concerns about his mechanics never disappeared. As much as Tebow's leadership and competitive spirit set him apart, the reality was that NFL defenses would present a new kind of challenge. The league's faster defenders and more complex schemes meant that every small flaw could become a big problem. Tebow's college career showed what was possible when talent, confidence, and leadership came together. But it also set up a difficult question. Would the same approach that made him unstoppable on Saturdays hold up when the speed and precision of the NFL became the new standard? Tim Tebow's throwing mechanics stood out the moment he entered the NFL, drawing immediate attention and concern. In college, his powerful running and leadership often covered for technical flaws. But at the pro level, those flaws became much more obvious. The core issue was his elongated throwing motion. a long windup that pulled the ball back behind his body before releasing it high above his shoulder. This motion slowed down the entire process of getting the ball out. In the NFL, where defenders close in fast and passing windows disappear in an instant, a slow release is a real problem. Tebow's release time was consistently slower than what teams wanted from a starting quarterback. The windup, combined with a low release point, made it easier for defenders to disrupt his passes. Former NFL coach Brian Billick put it plainly: the low release and long windup are a major concern. This wasn't just theory. The slow release meant defenders had more time to react, leading to more batted balls and giving pass rushers extra chances to get to Tebow before he could throw. In practice and in games, this led to sacks, forced fumbles, and missed opportunities. Accuracy also suffered because of these mechanics. NFL quarterbacks need to hit receivers in stride, especially on short and intermediate routes. Tebow's passes often missed the mark, sometimes sailing high, other times landing behind his receivers. This made it tough for his offense to keep drives alive and limited what his teammates could do after the catch. On deep throws, the problem was even more pronounced. The javelin-like motion of his delivery took away needed velocity, causing the ball to float and giving defenders extra time to close in. What looked like a big play in college often turned into an incompletion or interception in the pros. For most rookie quarterbacks, accuracy can improve with more reps and better timing. For Tebow, the inconsistency was rooted in the very way he threw the ball. These were not just minor technical issues. They were habits formed over years of playing, making them hard to change quickly. Even with extra work in practice, the slow release and low release point kept showing up under pressure. In high-speed NFL games, where defenses disguise coverages and bring complex blitzes, those flaws became bigger problems. Tebow's athleticism could buy him time on short plays, but it couldn't make up for the fundamental issues in his throwing motion. Defenses quickly adapted. Coaches saw the slow release on firm and designed pressure packages to force Tebow to throw before he was ready. The result was more hurried passes and more mistakes. Even when he had time, the ball didn't come out with the velocity or accuracy needed to consistently beat NFL defenders. Teams began to crowd the line of scrimmage, daring Tebow to beat them with his arm instead of his legs. This made life even harder for him and his receivers, shrinking the field and making every throw more difficult. There was always the question of whether these mechanics could be fixed. Some quarterbacks have reworked their deliveries early in their careers, but it's a huge challenge, especially when the habits are as ingrained as Tebow's. Changing a throwing motion isn't just about drills, it's about rewiring muscle memory built up over a lifetime. Coaches and front offices had to decide if it was worth the investment of time and resources, knowing that the league rarely offers much patience. For Tebow, the pressure to improve was constant, and every mistake was magnified by the attention he received. On top of the technical challenges, Tebow's every move was under a microscope. Each throw in practice, each snap in a game, was analyzed and discussed on sports shows and social media. If he missed a pass, critics pointed to his mechanics as the reason. If he made a big play, some dismissed it as luck or athleticism rather than skill. This level of scrutiny added another layer of difficulty, making it even harder for Tebow to settle in and make the necessary changes. All these factors combined to create a situation where Tebow's potential was always in question. His leadership and athletic ability were never doubted, but the basic mechanics of his game made it tough for teams to commit to him as a long-term solution at quarterback. Even when he found moments of success, the doubts about his throwing motion remained. The conversation around Tebow was never just about football. It was about what he represented, both on and off the field. With so much attention focused on his mechanics, it's easy to forget that Tebow's presence extended far beyond the field. The intense spotlight, fueled by his personality and beliefs, shaped his NFL journey just as much as his throwing motion did. The phenomenon known as Tebow-mania wasn't just about his play, but about the way every moment around him became headline news. The frenzy reached a peak during his time with the Denver Broncos, especially after his playoff heroics. To put the scale of attention into perspective, after his overtime win against the Steelers, there were a record 9,420 tweets per second about Tebow, showing just how much his story captivated the public. Every action, interview, and gesture was analyzed and discussed, often overshadowing the actual games themselves. A major driver of this attention was Tebow's outspoken Christian faith. He often quoted Bible verses in interviews and became known for kneeling in prayer on the field, a gesture quickly dubbed Tebowing. For many fans, these displays were inspiring. They saw Tebow as more than just a quarterback. He was a symbol of faith and perseverance. Supporters admired his willingness to be open about his beliefs and to serve as a role model both on and off the field. But not everyone saw it the same way. Some critics questioned whether these public displays were appropriate in a professional sports setting. They wondered if his actions were a distraction or if they drew unnecessary attention to himself and away from the team. Even inside the league, opinions were split. Former NFL quarterback Kurt Warner, who was also known for his faith, suggested that Tebow might want to tone down the public prayers. Warner wasn't telling Tebow to hide his beliefs, but he recognized that constant attention of one player's faith could create tension in a locker room and put up barriers with teammates and fans. The result was a situation where every aspect of Tebow's career was amplified. His press conferences turned into major events, with questions ranging from football to his personal beliefs. The media cycle fed on itself. The more coverage Tebow received, the more people tuned in, and the bigger the spectacle became. Sports shows debated his every move, and social media exploded with both support and criticism. This constant spotlight made it hard for Tebow to focus only on football. Successes were celebrated far beyond what most players experienced, but failures were just as public and often blown out of proportion. For coaches and teammates, the attention brought both positives and challenges. Some appreciated Tebow's work ethic and positive attitude, while others grew frustrated with the circus that followed him. Routine practices were filmed and discussed, and simple plays became talking points for days. The team couldn't escape the scrutiny, and that kind of environment can wear down even the most focused locker room. It became difficult to separate Tebow the player from Tebow the media figure. Tebow himself seemed to embrace the attention, often speaking about his desire to set an example and share his faith. He welcomed the role of being a public figure, but also that meant carrying the weight of expectations that went far beyond football. Every week, it felt like he was fighting two battles, one on the field and one in the court of public opinion. The pressure to succeed was immense, especially with so many people investing in his journey for reasons that had little to do with his passing stats or win-loss record. All of this shaped the way NFL teams viewed Tebow's future. For a player already facing questions about his mechanics and fit in a pro offense, the constant media attention made it even harder for teams to commit to his development. Every start, every snap became a national event. Coaches had to weigh whether the benefits of having Tebow on the roster outweighed the distractions and expectations that came with him. It was a unique situation, one where the off-field story sometimes mattered as much as what happened between the lines. Looking back, it's clear that Tebow's journey in the NFL was about more than football. His presence created a conversation that extended well beyond the game, and the media storm that followed him shaped every opportunity and challenge he faced. But with all the attention and debate, another question started to emerge. Was the league Tebow entered even the right fit for his unique talents? Or did the NFL's changing landscape make it nearly impossible for him to succeed? During Tebow's time in the NFL, the league was in the middle of a shift. Teams were still built around pocket passers. Players like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees, who made a living by reading defenses quickly and delivering accurate throws from the pocket. While dual-threat quarterbacks had made their mark before, Michael Vick was already a star, and Cam Newton would soon follow, the expectation for starting quarterbacks in most systems was clear. You had to win with your arm first, and legs were a bonus. The NFL valued accuracy, quick decision-making, and the ability to process complex defensive looks. For Tebow, this landscape was both an opportunity and a challenge. Tebow's athleticism and running ability were clear strengths, and the Broncos found ways to use them. In 2011, Denver shifted to a run-heavy offense, leaning on read option plays to take advantage of Tebow's power and mobility. This approach led to a string of dramatic wins and a playoff run that included his famous overtime touchdown against the Steelers. For a brief stretch, Tebow's style seemed to work, but it was always a temporary solution. Most NFL teams weren't willing to overhaul their entire system for a quarterback whose passing was so inconsistent. The numbers tell a big part of the story. During his NFL career, Tebow completed just 47.9% of his passes. Compared to the league average at the time, typically around 60%, that gap was hard to ignore. Even other dual-threat quarterbacks who found success, like Michael Vick, were able to combine their running ability with more reliable accuracy. The difference with Tebow was that his mechanics and decision-making often prevented him from making the quick, on-target throws that NFL offenses demanded. He struggled with timing on short and intermediate routes, and his long throwing motion gave defenses time to react. These issues didn't just limit big plays, they made it tough to keep drives alive at all. The NFL's defenses were also getting more sophisticated. Teams used advanced blitzes, disguised coverages, and shifting alignments to confuse quarterbacks. Success depended on being able to diagnose what the defense was going to do before the snap and react in real time. This put even more pressure on quarterbacks to process information quickly and deliver the ball with precision. Tebow's college experience hadn't required him to do this at the same level, and it showed. He often hesitated or missed open receivers, and defenses learned to crowd the line of scrimmage, daring him to beat them with his arm. Denver's experiment with Tebow was unique because the team was willing to adapt, at least for a season. The Broncos' offense looked different from most others in the league. But even with the changes, there were limits to how far they could go. NFL teams expect their quarterbacks to be able to run a full playbook, including quick slants, deep outs, and reads across the field. Tebow's accuracy and processing speed made it hard to trust him in those situations. As defenses adjusted, the Broncos had to rely more on running plays, and the offense became easier to predict. After the 2011 season, teams across the league took note of Denver's approach but didn't see it as a blueprint. The read option concepts that worked for a few games weren't viewed as long-term answers. Coaches and executives wanted quarterbacks who would consistently move the ball through the air. As the league moved towards more specialized roles and leaned on data-driven decision-making, Tebow's weaknesses stood out even more. Metrics like completion percentage and passing efficiency became more important, and Tebow's numbers didn't measure up. It's important to recognize that the NFL did eventually become more open to mobile quarterbacks who could make plays outside the pocket. Players like Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson have thrived in systems that highlight their dual threat abilities. The key difference is that these quarterbacks pair their running with a high level of passing accuracy and quick reads. Wilson, for example, has consistently completed over 60% of his passes, and Jackson's MVP season was built on both his legs and his ability to deliver the ball on time. Tebow had the leadership and athleticism, but his passing never reached that level. The timing of Tebow's career meant he peaked just before the league fully embraced the idea of building around a dual-threat quarterback, so long as the quarterback could also deliver from the pocket. While his style brought excitement and a few unforgettable moments, it didn't fit with what the teams were looking for in a long-term starter. The Broncos' brief success was a testament to creative coaching, but it wasn't enough to change the minds of decision-makers across the league. All these factors, changing offenses, evolving defenses, and a growing focus on passing efficiency, meant that Tebow's unique skill set was always at odds with the direction of the NFL. His time in the league became a case study in how talent, timing, and system fit can shape a player's career. For Tebow, the next question wasn't just about his skills, but about the opportunities he actually received. Looking at the years Tebow spent in the NFL, missed opportunities stand out as a defining part of his story. The combination of unstable coaching and limited chances to play quarterback made it difficult for him to develop in the way most young players need. After being drafted by the Denver Broncos, Tebow started his career under head coach Josh McDaniels, the same coach who believed in his potential enough to make him a first-round pick. But Daniels was fired before Tebow's second season, and the team's direction changed overnight. Tebow found himself working with new coaches and learning a different system, right as he was trying to adjust to the speed and complexity of the NFL. For a quarterback with a unique skill set and known mechanical issues, that lack of continuity was a major setback. Despite these challenges, Tebow managed to lead the Broncos on a memorable run in 2011. The team adjusted their offense to fit his strengths, and he delivered a string of dramatic wins, including the playoff victory over Pittsburgh. Yet, the moment Denver signed Peyton Manning, everything changed. The Broncos moved on quickly, trading Tebow to the New York Jets rather than giving him an extended chance to build on his playoff success. For a player who had just won a postseason game, the window to improve and grow as a starter was closed almost immediately. The situation with the Jets is another clear example of a missed opportunity. Instead of letting Tebow compete as a traditional quarterback, the Jets used him almost exclusively in the Wildcat formation. He was rarely given the chance to throw, attempting only 8 passes the entire season. For context, NFL quarterbacks typically need hundreds of live reps to improve their timing, decision-making, and chemistry with receivers. Throwing just 8 passes in the year is nowhere near enough to make progress, especially for someone who needed to work on his accuracy and mechanics. The limited use not only stalled his development, but also fueled criticism about his ability to play the position at the pro level. Other quarterbacks in the league have shown how much difference stability and repetition can make. Tom Brady's career with the Patriots is often cited as the gold standard for consistency. 2 decades with the same coach and offensive system allowed him to master every detail of the playbook. Even quarterbacks who struggled early on, like Josh Allen, benefited from teams willing to stick with them and provide the time and coaching needed to improve. Allen, who also faced questions about accuracy coming out of college, was given the space to develop through repeated starts and a stable environment. Tebow, by contrast, moved from team to team, always learning new systems and never getting the volume of practice or game reps that could help him address his weaknesses. Even when Tebow reunited with Josh McDaniels in New England, the opportunity was short-lived. The Patriots brought him in during the 2013 offseason, but he was released before the regular season began. There was no time for him to reestablish a connection with a coach who understood his strengths, and no chance to get meaningful reps in a stable setting. The same pattern repeated itself with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he spent time in the preseason but didn't make the final roster. The intense media attention that followed Tebow everywhere only made things harder. Every move he made was covered at length, and every team that signed him had to deal with a level of scrutiny rarely seen for a backup quarterback. This spotlight created added pressure, making it tougher for coaches to treat him as a long-term project. The constant debate over his place on the roster could quickly become a distraction, and teams often chose to avoid the extra attention rather than invest the time and resources needed for his development. When you add up the coaching changes, the lack of consistent playing time, and the relentless media coverage, it's clear that Tebow faced obstacles that went beyond his throwing mechanics. His story shows how important stability and opportunity are for any player, especially for those who enter the league with questions about their fit or skill set. Without the chance to build chemistry with teammates, refine techniques through regular reps, and learn from a consistent coaching staff, even the most determined athletes can struggle to reach their potential. Tebow's career leaves us with questions about how much environment shapes success in the NFL. His experience highlights the reality that talent and effort alone aren't always enough at the highest level. The bigger picture is about how all these factors, support, patience, and the right opportunity, work together to shape a player's path. One image stands out when you think about Tim Tebow's NFL career, the 80-yard overtime touchdown pass against the Steelers. It's a moment that captures both the excitement he brought to the field and the debate that followed him. Tebow's story is a reminder that leadership, confidence, and the ability to inspire can't always overcome the technical demands of pro football. His struggles with mechanics and quick decision-making in the NFL spotlight show just how much the league values precision and fit. But his legacy always reveals the tension between heart and skill. What does Tebow's journey teach us about the balance between heart and the mechanics in pro sports?